I got on the flight. Ended up in seat 10B. 10B is called the middle seat. I don't get the middle seat. But I sat down and waited. The plane looked pretty full. They're about to close the door. And just before they close the door, in walks in Thor. I kid you not. The guy was built like Thor. He had really skinny legs, but then came out. He had a ponytail, blonde hair, tied back. He had a light blue Oxford shirt buttoned down, kind of undone to his belly button, just showing his chest. His khakis were rolled up with his boat shoes, no socks because he's too cool. He's got those sexy ankles. And he had one bag, right? And of course, he was in 10C. So he comes in and he sits down on 10C and he immediately manspreads. Yeah. He manspreads right there. Yeah, I want to, just this kind of moment. I want you to feel the pain that I was feeling right there. He takes his bag and he drops it on my thigh. And he starts to search for a book and finds a book on how to close difficult sales. I'm then throw the bag on your leg and maybe you'll close a sale. So he grabs the book out and puts it down and sticks it inside. And then he manspreads again. And I decide to lock my leg in. I don't move. I manspread back. He then takes his arm and pushes against my arm, and I lock mine in. This goes on for this 2.5-hour flight where our legs become hot and sweaty. Because I am not moving, man. I am not moving. And he is there reading chapter after chapter. I'm looking over how to close a sales deal. I'm like, listen to the book. It's not working for you. And he is just there. At one point, he decides to break the ice. And he tells me, move your arm. And I say to him, you don't understand the etiquette of planes. The middle seat has both arms. And he's not happy with it, and so he pushes more, and this time he pushes his elbow into my rib cage. And I push it back. I've been going to the gym, so I can do it now. And I push it back. And I'm now starting to think of every little corner shop where the big supermarket comes into town. I will defend them. This is the battle that I will die on. This is worth everybody. I'm just I'm not going to budge. And at one point, he lifts his arm up and lays it on top of my arm. Right on top of my arm. And I don't budge, man. I just stay there focused on happy thoughts while our legs are sweating away. About 5 minutes or 10 minutes before the flight is about to end, he turns to me and he just says, "You're just so fat." And then he begins a whole barrage of words that followed that I won't pronounce right now. And I showed him a hand signal. What do you mean? I went, why are you talking this way? Judy, what did you think I showed him? I know. I showed him the hand signal. I said, why are you talking this way? I said, your mummy wouldn't be proud of you. That got him more mad. I knew it would. Let's be honest. And he went on and on and on, and it all kind of ended. We landed, and he got up, and I wanted to take a photo of him, but I thought there may be an air marshal on the board, so I didn't do that. And as I walked off the flight, and started to go back, I realized as I was leaving this place, I thought, man, the air marshal could have caught me, the staff could be upset with me, I could have been banned from flying on United ever again, and then I had this moment of stillness. And I thought, that voice that I had suppressed the entire flight. And I thought, is that what a Jesus follower would do? Would I lock arms? Or would I have been, as I have done before, just squeeze myself in more and just let him have his own way? Is that what it means to be a follower of Jesus? Was I active or was I passive in that moment? The text that we had in Luke, is not the first time that Jesus is mentioning this. It actually begins way earlier in Matthew, Mark, and the other Gospels, where it actually says that if anyone is to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his daily cross and follow me. And Jesus knew that when about 6 or 9 months of that point when he shared that text, everything was going to change. His disciples were going to be crushed. People were going to be disappointed. And he's just like, I need you to know how serious this is. For 3 years, I've been doing ministry with you. For 3 years, I've been loving you. And I want you to understand that I need you to make a choice. And making a choice to follow me is not easy. It is taking up a cross. The Apostle Paul understood this so well. And in Colossians, he says, he, Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. Through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. Because from the cross forward, we have one single hope and one charge. And this is the charge to us, where Paul says, continue in the faith, stable and steadfast, not shifting from the hope of the gospel. Being passive in our faith is very different from being active in our faith. Being passive, as Luke accounted inside here, he said there was crowds all around them. They followed, and Jesus said, you're going to be part of the crowd and a fan, or you're going to become a follower or disciple, then you're going to become active. It's very easy to be passive. I slip back into passive all the time, in my personal life and in my spiritual walk as well. Where I live in California, there's a wonderful service right near my home where a lady called Chelsea, I got to meet her a couple of times. I take all my clothes out, dry clean clothes, and I put them in a bag, and I leave it outside my door. Chelsea picks it up, and the next day, because of the work of the elves during the night, it all comes back, and it's just hanging on my front door of my house. And if it's raining, she has the code to my house. She goes inside and hangs it up in the cupboard. Yeah, I know, it's pretty darn amazing. I'm kind of like shocked. But Chelsea knew that I'm coming out to this next traveling appointment, and I needed her to be able to get this dry clean and ready so I could be ready for this. And she texts me, and she says, hey, this is on Friday. She said, hey, my sister had an asthma attack, and it led to a heart attack, and she coded for 9 minutes. And I was like, man, I've not had a deep conversation with Chelsea about anything. We talked about her diving, where I met her a couple of times. And so I wrote back to her and I said, look, I'm a pastor. I work in healthcare. If there's anything I can do, let me be of service to you. Don't worry about the clothes. I'll be fine. And so it went by. This is Friday. Monday morning, she texts me really early in the morning. And she says, hey, my sister passed away. We were there, her children were there, my other siblings were all by her side, and I'm going to bring you clothes today because I know you're traveling. I'm like, no, don't bring my clothes. It's okay. Don't worry about it, Chelsea. It's fine. I got up at 4 o'clock that day. I knew I had a really busy day. It was just like back to back with meetings, and so I just need to crush it. And I thought, I need to just go get this myself. So I jump in my Audi. And I make that 30-minute journey in a lot less than 30 minutes. And when the police pull me over, and they give me my very first ticket in California, and my very first ticket that I've had in many, many years for the record, I didn't share. He said, why were you speeding? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you the story about Chelsea. As passive, I wasn't paying attention. We're just passive in it. If I was active, I would have planned for the trip. I would have made sure I had time to do this. We do this in our personal life, and God is saying to us that we need to make sure that we're not passive in our spiritual walk. To take up the cross is hard. So when he talks about this, and he mentions, these hard words about how it actually is following, and then he says, hey, you got to hate your father, your mother, your spouse, your children. We read it today like, this is a bit of a tall order. This is one of those awkward listen to him words that we don't want to hear. But they understood what he meant, because back in the day, especially in the First Testament, there's stories like the stories of Jacob, who was in love with Rachel and also was tricked into marrying Leah. And the Bible records in some translations, it says, and the Lord saw that Leah was hated. In other translations, it actually says, understanding the origins of the language, and the Lord saw that Leah was loved less. And what Jesus is saying is, if you're going to follow me, make me number one and love everything less. Love everything less. Make a choice to take your 2 feet and put him inside. I'm not an option. I am the choice. I've had an interesting 3 years, the last 3 years, and I would say that I've lived in a bit of a fog. I have made some silly decisions. I've gone through some emotional roller coasters. I have made some amazing decisions as well. And I look back on my life the last 3 years, and I do sense that the fog is lifting, right? I do sense that things are changing. I do sense that the heat has arrived and it's burning the fog off, and it is just disappearing inside there. But I don't look back on my life and say to myself, I wish I could change things. I don't know if you ever do. I don't know if you ever sit down and you think, oh man, if I could just change this moment, everything would be fine. If I could go back in time, I would do this. I think even if I had the power to change everything, I would not change anything. I would stay as I am. Last June, it was pretty hard. I have discovered, I was talking to Jessica Dooley. She happens to be, I work with her now, but she happened to be the youth pastor for my kids many years ago. And I was telling her about some thoughts that I had, and she said, oh, Japhet, that's because you're an external processor. I was like, really? I'm an external processor? I only discovered that I'm an extrovert, Patty, recently. I'm an external processor. I talk things out. And my boys are internal processors. So, of course, I called them and said, hey, did you know that I'm an external processor? And they're like, yeah, Dad, yeah. And did you know you're internal? I said, yes. We knew that about ourselves before you told us. I said, all right. Well, let me tell you what I'm thinking. And hopefully you'll repeat back some thoughts to me, because I want to hear what you're thinking as well. So I had this moment in June, and I needed to, you know what it's like when you just need to be in the presence of God. You need to work something out. And it's Friday night, and so I booked a flight. And I have to say, I even booked it on Southwest. It's horrifying. I am a united person. I went to the Southwest of all airlines. And you do not want to know how much I paid for that flight. It was astronomical. I went to Ontario Airport, direct flight. Sam Lenore picked me up at the airport. Tim Gillespie was texting me. He was on his flight coming from Australia. He had been preaching out there, and so we were going to meet up at Redlands at Crosswalk Church. I needed to hear the word of God in my life. And I wanted to be in the presence of brothers that I knew. I wanted to be in the presence of worship. And you know, in the Old Testament, it says this, that before you hear the word of God, you should listen to the music. The prophet says, bring the musicians out. We will sing to the Lord. Then we will hear the word. You can only hear the word when you open your heart up. So I said, I will go and I will listen and I'll let the Spirit speak to me. So I sat and I really wanted to hide and listen. And songs happened. And then the preacher got up. And he began his sermon. He said, you know, have any of you ever gone through a big change in your life recently? And I was like, yeah, I did. And he said, you know, maybe you've moved house. I was like, check. Maybe you've changed jobs. I said, check. Maybe you lost your spouse. And I said, check. And he went through this list, and I was like, check, all the way through. And I said, Lord, I know you're direct, but not always that direct is needed. Take it back a little bit. And I know what you're saying. Icky had been telling me this for a long time. Japhet, you just need to go and spend some time in silence and stillness. He said, come away with me. I'll give you a bottle of water, drop you off in the mountains, and see you next day. No, that's what you said, man. And I have not done that because I'm not stupid. He won't come back. But he said, you need stillness. You need stillness to be able to hear the voice of God. And I'm listening to this, check. And then the preacher gets up and he says, and this is the moment I took my phone out to take this, and he said, stillness is always a prerequisite to be able to hear the word of God. Right? Stillness is needed. So I've been thinking I need more stillness in my life. And as I took the time to be still, everything I keep hearing back from God is that I need to be more intentional about everything I do. Just be intentional. Just make a decision. Don't leave things as options. Make choices. You're going to follow me? Follow me, Japhet. Don't pretend to follow me. Follow me. Make me one. Make me number one. Make me the 100%. Put everything into that space. I wrestled through that for the next few months, and I had promised my brother David Franklin. Where's David? There. I promised my brother David Franklin that I was going to come out to his church, and I'm helping to lead this other church in Crosswalk, Sacramento, and I was like, I'm going to come out. I've been watching his sermons every single week, and David's in San Francisco, and he's just started this church plant called the Incredible Church. So eventually, December 28th, the final Sabbath, I promised you in 24 I'd come, and I go to church, and I got to say that, I arrived as a stranger, and I left as family. It's amazing when you walk up, I'm coming out of the parking lot and I'm walking up to the church and people are in the middle of deep conversations. They stop, turn around and say, hey, welcome. Let me talk to you. Who are you? What's your name? And then people just came and sat down. I sat on the front row and the people came and sat down and talked and engaged. And it was just, it was great. And then David got up and he preached the word that day. He talked about this path. He talked about how sometimes, you're going on this path, you're following Jesus and things fall down. And our temptation is to turn around and go back. And we have to hack at the things that's fallen down. I'm like, okay, Lord, again, speak to me and tell me what I need to do in 25, have intention about all the things that we are. I want to follow God 100%. And I have wondered how difficult it is at times and how easy it is to slip away. I run this podcast for Adventist Health called Story and Experience Podcast, and it's 100 questions. 100 questions of stories that pull out, your story in your life, and you don't answer all 100 questions, but it gets harder the closer you get to 100, right? So sometimes you interview somebody, they're like, let's just stay at number 1 and number 2 for a while. But other people, as the conversation goes along, they open up more about their soul and they get closer to 100. So question number 99 is, what's the most difficult truth you've ever told? Some people say, I had to tell the company this, da-da-da-da-da. Or I had to tell somebody who works for me this, da-da-da-da-da. But some people say, I had to tell myself something. That's the most difficult truth, when we're honest with ourselves. Then question 100. Question 100 is, what's the question that you don't want me to ask you? And inevitably, some people meet to say, I'm an open book, which they are. But if they give themselves just a few more seconds, they'll actually start to bring out the questions that they don't want us to ask them. So the question that I wouldn't want you to ask me is, what was the last 6 months of Becky's life like? I wouldn't want to have to talk about that. She was a phenomenal force, a bright, bright star, and she lived her life fully. And I love this about her. But when you have glioblastoma, it's a form of terminal brain cancer, it starts to change your brain. And the things that changed that she had no control over. The last Christmas before she passed, she got presents for the kids. And our youngest son, Jonah, he is like his dad in the sense that he loves knives. I love knives. In a healthy way. Stephen knows this. Stephen has said to me the other day when I flew to London, he said, bring your knives with you back to London and I will show you how to sharpen them like a samurai. I'm like, yeah, all right. Stephen and I both like knives. I love knives. If you're ever feeling lonely, buy me a knife. So Jonah gets this beautiful knife for Christmas. And so it's really exciting. Now, I should put some context into the story, actually, that's probably important. And one is that I wasn't very good at always finding the peanut butter in the house. I would often go to the cupboard and say, where is the peanut butter? And then Becky would come over and say, right in front of you. And I was like, that's where it is. And so the joke was all the time, it's like, you man can never find anything in the house. I'm like, of course I can find things, just not the peanut butter. It's always in disguise. They all look the same. So just understand that. So Jonah loses the knife. the day after Christmas, Boxing Day. And it's chaos in the house. Everybody's around. It's a lot of fun and stuff and lots of emotions. And he feels really mortified about this. And Becky says, "You got to find the knife. You got to find the knife." And so he looks all over the house and he can't find it. And eventually, Joshua and Jonah come down to see their mom. Their mom's laying on the sofa. And I'm upstairs at the balcony looking down at the scene. And I see them coming in. And they are remorseful and sad because they know this could be the last gift that they get from their mom. And so Jonah's like, "Mom, I just can't find it. I don't know where it is. Somewhere I can't find it. I hope I didn't throw it away. I can't find it." And she is she's like, "How are you going to find anything after I'm gone?" Right? And it's heavy. So they're crying. I'm crying up there. And then she puts her hand behind her back. And she comes forward. And she says, "Come and get it." And they're like, "What?" Wiping the tears away. Like, "What? How? You've had it all this time?" And she opens her hand and she says, "Take the knife." And the boys look at her hand and there's nothing in her hand. And I'm crying now. And I mouth them because her vision has gone a little bit now. Her hearing is a lot less. She can't see, can't speak too well. And I mouth to them to go forward and pick it up. And my son Jonah steps forward and he grabs the knife from her hand and says, "Mom, thank you. Thank you." I don't say anything to Becky that day. I talked to her the next day and I said to her, "Hey, Beck, there was no knife in your hand, right?" And she's like, yeah, I know. I said, "All right, that's fine." But at the time, with the cancer and everything, things are a little off skew. You don't get it exactly right inside there. But in those last 6 months, we reiterated many times that we would never have changed anything in our lives. Neither the good, the bad, or the ugly. We would have just stayed the same. We would have stayed the same. We would have just stayed with God on this journey. We would not, even if I had the power to change it, I wouldn't change it. Because it makes us who we are today. My 2 boys are amazing men, and I love them dearly, and I'm proud of who they are. I'm proud that they're kind and gentle men. I'm proud of their walk with God and their struggle with God. I'm proud that they discuss things with God and they're angry and happy. I'm happy that they have all the emotions they need. And what I want for them and what I want for you is the courage to be able to say, "I will, God, I will always follow you. I will follow you through the thick times and the good times. I'll follow you when it's dark and I'll follow you when it's light, but I will not leave." God gives us grace and he expects and he demands action, right? It's not the words that we use, but if you're going to be a follower of Jesus, it's all in. It's all in. It's the only way to be. And I want to do the same. And I want you to do the same as well. I will follow him. And I encourage you to do that.
And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I.